there's a lot of sanity to be gained in detaching from a set outcome, because you can enjoy the doing, the journey, versus this idea that it might result in money or followers or likes. My name is Louise Spinks, and on TikTok, where we met, I'm known as Louise with Employees. I live in and I'm joining you from Sydney in Australia. I got my phone, I turned it on, I kind of held it up, and I was nervous as all hell. I didn't even know what to say. I didn't know where to start. So I didn't know. And I kind of had to check myself and think, who cares?
Hello, I'm Sophie, Millionaire Mom, and I bring you the tools, the courses, and the mindset that you need to make a success online. If you're not already subscribed to my channel, please make sure you do so and hit that notification bell. That way you don't miss a single video. I publish videos every week and I always create content that is going to help you make a success online. Now, in this video, I bring you an interview, the interview of Louise Spinks, whom I met on TikTok a few months ago. Louise Spinks is an extraordinary woman who has a thriving offline business and an impressive number of qualifications in human resources, law, and psychology. She is, in her own words, an unshakable optimist who believes in people, community, and the power of action, no matter how small. Now, during the pandemic, Louise ventured on TikTok, which is, as I said, where we met. And her channel is the perfect example of one of those channels that really brings a ton of value and helps thousands, if not more, but certainly thousands of people. All the details on where to find her and how to contact her are in the description of this video. But for now, let's dive straight into the interview and listen to what she shared about her story, her work, and pushing past perfectionism and comfort zones. Let's go. Hello, Louise. Thank you so much for joining me today for this interview. And I want to start by asking you, who are you? What is basically, very basic, what's your name? Where do you live? And what do you do?
Brilliant. Well, thank you for inviting me online. It's such a strange world that it is an online invite, but I really appreciate it. When you reached out, I was actually really excited because I've seen some of your content, and I've also had the opportunity to look at some of your material across Facebook and YouTube and of course TikTok, where we met. My name is Louise Spinks, and on TikTok, where we met, I'm known as Louise with Employees. And my background, well, first of all, I live in and I'm joining you from Sydney in Australia. And I'm actually right in the heart of the city centre. So I live in an apartment, and I live on the top of the building. So I have the top floor and I look out over the city and it's beautiful. I'm probably somewhat biased, but I absolutely love it. So you can't see right now, but I literally look out over the city. So at the moment it's nighttime here in Sydney. And so you can see all the lights and the buildings, and I absolutely love it. And I've probably tried to grow a few too many plants because we have the top level. I've got a balcony that goes around, and I have probably filled every possible inch of it with plants. I'm a big plant person. So this is my probably country rural side in the city makeshift relationship of sorts. And in terms of my background, I have been in HR. So I've been a HR practitioner, human resources practitioner, for gosh, nearly, I think a little over actually, 17 years now. It's crazy. Wow. I say that and I kind of realize it's a long time. And so I've worked across a number of different organizations. My background is in neuroscience, psychology, and obviously also HR and business. I've got a few degrees. I collected them. So law, business, and also social science with the psych side. And I started a business a few years back. I don't know if you want me to go into that, but I started a business a few years back, and find myself today in the coaching and consulting space.
Exactly. No, that's amazing. That's as you say, we met on TikTok. I found you there, and you know, my own background is in psychology originally, so I was kind of hooked by your videos, and I would love for you to tell us, yes, more of, you know, exactly what you created your own business a few years ago, if I've understood correctly. Is that right?
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah. So I had already probably consistently worked for corporate. So I hadn't really gone out on my own into the business world. I didn't know anything about it, but I thought about it for a few years on and off. A couple of companies had reached out to me and asked if I'd do consulting work. And as it is, conflict of interest and whatnot, I hadn't really done it. I just kind of gone, no, I'm going to stay an employee. And I had some disagreements with my last workplace on the basis of how they run, et cetera, et cetera. And I found myself in a rather difficult situation wherein I chose to resign. And off the back of that, I kind of started voicing some of my concerns with corporate culture. So not to be vague, I'm specifically talking about office politics. And off the back of that, not surprisingly, I found that I wasn't alone. And it's an interesting one because it's one thing to be at the heart of some toxic workplace culture and some office politics, which if you throw in some antisocial behaviors, so that's behaviors around like folks who might have or have tendencies that are not similar to a sociopath or psychopath or a narcissist. If you find yourself reporting into that person, it's even more difficult when you're in, as I was, the most senior kind of HR role for my region, wherein I'm actually reporting to the head of HR. And so where do you go? If you report to the head of HR, who do you go to? You know, because ultimately HR are meant to be that third party, that neutral body, relatively neutral body that sits inside of an organization in order to protect the employee rights. And so I kind of found myself thinking, I wonder how many other people are out there like myself. So folks who are in human resource roles or in roles at an executive level as well in businesses that find that they can't really go anywhere to escalate their grievances. What processes exist? Because when you're junior in an organization, quite often you can go to different people, whether that be your manager, whether that be a senior colleague, someone who you've always looked up to, or HR, you tend to have a myriad of different avenues to ultimately check out, research. And I didn't. So I decided to be that person for other people. So I kind of left the corporate space and decided to go out on my own, employ a few people and serve them twofold. One is on the coaching side. So I do one-to-one coaching, predominantly focused on helping employees that work for the large corporates to navigate through toxic workplace environments. And the overarching idea is to take them ideally from a state of surviving, which is kind of waking up each day with a pit in your stomach, just thinking, oh, I just need to get through today. I just need to pay the bills, feed the kids, get through today, maybe minimize the extent to which I interact with said toxic person, or, you know, what's the phrase, bum down, head down, bum up, and get on with it versus, and this is where I like to help clients kind of transition into thriving, which is working in the same environment. It's not to say that it's sadly any less toxic, but it's to say that even in a relatively toxic environment, again, whether that be practices, policies, overall business culture, or maybe the business is great, you love your role, but you're reporting to someone really toxic, to actually get into a position where you can still be appreciated, you can still be acknowledged and have worth, and still find yourself being promoted and having work find you joy each day. And that's what I help folks with on the one-to-one coaching side. That's my specialty. And on the consulting side of the house, I actually go into businesses, and it's far more strategic. I look at things that ultimately help not only kind of create, but also sustain and nurture positive workplace cultures. So practices and programs that help elevate and also ensure inclusivity around diversity with regards to talent, attraction, development, looking at things, you know, from a perspective of top talent development, what that looks like, even consideration of leadership development programs, what's included and what isn't. I do have a side kind of pie in the sky, it's like a unicorn of sorts, to finish up and complete some PhD studies, specifically with the intent to create and publish some work that hopefully helps shift some large corporates, especially in the financial services sector, legal sector, pharmaceutical sector, hospitality sector. These are sectors that have a lot of antisocial behaviors at the top. And obviously there's a trickle-down effect, which results in everything from, you know, challenges around well-being, folks wanting to leave, absenteeism, and all the rest of it. Wow. And actually have built into their leadership development programs courses on how to cope with, deal with, and adopt different kind of methodologies to deal with different people. And it's not just about different management styles. It's actually straight out how to deal with toxic folks in the workplace. Because I think for the most part, and it took me to go through and have my own experience in a large corporate to realize people don't really talk about it. And so in not talking about it, you normalize this idea that you're the exception. So maybe you're reporting into a, for lack of a better word, horrible boss. And you kind of think you're the exception. A lot of the time there's shame around it, embarrassment. People don't want to talk about it. A lot of the time they just want to kind of scoop it up under the carpet and get on and apply for jobs elsewhere and hope that they don't find themselves in a similar situation. And I think now is the time more than ever before for people to stand up and say, this is a reality. It's not an exception. If you work in a large environment or even any environment of 100 or more people, you are going to have some sociopaths, some narcissistic traits thrown in there, you know, maybe a psychopath or two. And a lot of those folks, they're high achievers. They're the ones in the senior positions who can ultimately end up injuring at best your job and your position and your ability to grow and get up the corporate ladder and have career growth. At worst, mental health. And, you know, I've got clients who, unfortunately, as a result of significant trauma in the workplace, have found themselves what we call whole person impaired. They're not able to actually return to work in any full-time capacity ever again. That's a clinical diagnosis. So I do think it's a very significant issue. It's not, you know, there aren't exceptions, but I don't think there's enough research in this space. So it's something that I'm looking at the moment. But certainly on the consulting side, a large part of that is looking at programmatic measures to help ensure that environments are a lot more inclusive, diverse, and considered when it comes to growth and attraction of talent.
It's amazing, Louise. You do such an important job. And yeah, there's loads of things that you said that I thought, oh, wow, this is amazing. But yeah, I was thinking that it's a form of abuse, isn't it? So people feel very, what you describe, you know, they think they're alone and they don't speak out. And that's very typical of being in a kind of abusive relationship, isn't it? Where people don't dare speak out. And so it's such an important job, I think, to help people find their voice and speak out. And the other thing that struck me was when you said, you know, the person won't necessarily be able to leave the environment, but to be different in that environment. It's like you're helping them have a transformation. The word that came to me was transformation. And that's probably even more powerful than to help someone get out of a situation that's difficult. It's more how to be able to be in that same situation, but be different and cope with it differently. So such a valuable work. Wow.
Yeah, and it's something I think, you know, I had to learn myself. It's one thing to hear stories. It's another to actually go through it first person and experience it and feel really stuck. You know, I've had an increase in business of late off the back of the COVID environment. You know, on the one hand, you've got less jobs available in the market than ever before. So there's less organic growth. So jobs that are populating new jobs being created by businesses, alongside additional headcount freezes. So for folks that otherwise might have budgeted out a couple of roles for the first quarter, they're all on freeze, on hold. And then that alongside additional kind of vulnerabilities that the individual, the employee feels every day they wake up, knowing their head might be part of a group that's yet to be made redundant in light of the COVID scenario and the fact that the economy's taken a hit and the business in line with that has decided to downsize certain areas. And so with that comes a significant amount of fragility. So you have folks that who pre-COVID would otherwise, best case scenario, have looked straight away, have left and then started looking, or they might have worst case scenario just kind of felt stuck, felt that they didn't have skills to cross skill, felt nervous about maybe they worked in the organization for so long they don't know how to interview, they don't feel confident about their skills to apply for a job, they're not sure what's out there. More than ever before now with COVID, those folks who might have otherwise started to talk to folks, look elsewhere, are feeling the weight of the insecurity that exists in the environment, the working environment at the moment. And so frankly, they're kind of feeling like they have to put up with it. If they put up their hand, if they ruffle feathers, then their position might be one of the ones that's jeopardized, and all of a sudden they find themselves made redundant, whether it's legitimate or not. Yeah. And so you have a lot of folks who are kind of, they're struggling, you know, they're struggling to pay their bills. And on the other side, they're struggling to go to work, show up every day. Quite often, a lot of these people have the additional strain of doing more work for the team. So maybe the organization were over the budget, or the team went over the budget and they've had to pull a couple of people. Maybe they were contractors and they've said, okay, look, we're going to terminate your contracts. And so you might have had a team of, say, 5 people, which is now 3 people, an already existing stress team with maybe a manager who has immediate emotional responses, gets agitated easily, coming under the kind of the spotlight even more so from management above. And those poor folks that feel, oh my gosh, I can't do anything because I saw that those other people left. I just have to do it. I have to work 7 days a week. I have to take on additional responsibilities as my new norm. And to question it means that I might not find myself in a job tomorrow. And there's just not that many jobs floating around in the space that I can possibly apply for or network with other people to get. So it is a really tricky environment as well at the moment. For folks in that space.
Yeah, no, definitely. And this sort of leads me to ask my next question, because, you know, we met online, we met on TikTok. Of course, I'm on the other side of the world from you. And right now, there's just no way I can move. But, you know, we met online, and I was wondering if, you know, we met on TikTok, and I was wondering, you know, how did the pandemic then affect your work? I mean, on one hand, you said, you know, more people are suffering right now. And I'm thinking practically, I mean, are you working a lot more online, or are you still able to see people one-to-one? And I'm also wondering, is that what made you go on TikTok, because you found that you had to be online a lot more? Yeah,
absolutely. You raised some really good points there. So maybe if I start by saying, definitely, I found that although my business, I would say more than 50% pre-COVID was online, you know, the remaining 50%, a significant portion of that did have to transition. And some transitions fine in the sense that we can do what we're doing now, talking, you know, across the globe, and it's fine via video conference. The reality is that a significant portion of my speaking engagement, so I'm also a keynote speaker. I do a number of conferences and events globally. So I usually find myself flying at this time of year. I had a couple of speaking engagements in North America. They were on again, off again, on again, off again, through to maybe we're going to transition to a webinar-like environment of sorts, through to we tried that, we had a couple of guinea pigs and it didn't quite work, so we're going to put it on hold and just see where we are, where we land. It's now, of course, as we know, a good year on. And, you know, that side of the business, the speaking side of the business, has certainly taken a hit. So I am not engaged at all. You know, I've got a few minor gigs, but certainly the big conferences that I would usually speak at, so human resources and learning and development, diversity and inclusion conferences. A number of engagements in Europe and North America have been cancelled / put on hold. So on the one hand, there's the not knowing, and the other, there's not an increase on work coming through on that stream in terms of business. With regards to the other aspects, so consulting, not as much so. I found that for the most part, that work can be transitioned. So I'm finding that I'm meeting with managers and meeting with their teams, and I'm running workshops remotely, online. It's not ideal. I'm a huge person, kind of, face-to-face person. And so for me personally, it's been a bit of a struggle. I happily do online. I've worked in the IT sector for many years as a HR practitioner. So for me, video conferencing is not foreign per se, but having the majority of any given day online is new. And so that piece, it's tiring. I'll be frank, kind of 8, 9, 10-hour days on a video conference. It's exhausting. So there's certainly that piece. The other one, and this is brand new, it's not something that I'd ever done traditionally, is one of my services is an in-person support person. So what that means is, in the event that an employee has a rather significant formal meeting with HR and/or maybe the head of legal and/or their manager with respect to a disciplinary piece. So it might be anything from behavioral concerns the business has around maybe something the employee said or the way in which they approach their staff or their team, all the way through to underperformance, so concern on the low performance side of things. And when you formalize that, more often than not, it gets to the point where they're on the verge of terminating, and they're just considering, can we get this person up to speed at a level that would ensure that they can meet the expectations and the inherent responsibilities of the role at a sustainable rate and continue on. Unfortunately, quite often they can't, or there's a difference of opinion or a clash of cultural or business values. And so I would always do those meetings in person. The whole point is to go to the business with the employee and sit down, and my position there is relatively, it's neutral. It's to help support the person. Sometimes it's as simple as sitting there, just listening, taking notes, and ensuring that if I notice that my client's feeling overwhelmed, I can kind of ask for a break and we can have a little bit of a chat with regards to how we want to proceed going forward, or some of the options we might want to put on, an exit on the table, etc. Needless to say, all of that work has always, in all of my career, been done in person. So much so, I have flown several times overseas to be a support person, and I have done a lot of flying around Australia, across states, to be a support person. And I'm now doing all of those meetings online, and it can prove challenging and problematic. You've got heightened emotions. You've got my client there who might be having a first and final termination meeting with regards to a disciplinary piece that the company feels is severe enough that it warrants an exit. And they're breaking down, and it's all kind of online. It's a rather strange and odd piece to undertake via video conferencing.
Of course.
So that's a big transition.
I imagine. Absolutely. And so I'm wondering what pushed you to then, because when I listen to you, I think, wow, you have so much on. You obviously, even with the pandemic, you're really not out of work. And I'm wondering what pushed you to go on TikTok and publish over there. It's amazing.
Yes. So I didn't really touch on that. So I had heard about TikTok loosely. I didn't have any family and friends who were on the platform. I wish I did. I'm the kind of person who would reach out to them. I would get on the phone and be like, hey, this TikTok thing, what's it about? What's the audience? What's the target market? What do people tend to do on there? I'd heard about it. I think I read about it in the newspaper, of all things, like the physical newspaper, in terms of it coming up through the ranks as a genuine contender against the likes of, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, Snapchat, and all of the other apps that are out there. And I was curious. So I signed up and I started to look at a few videos. And at first It may not surprise you. I saw a lot of young people who were kind of dancing around, and I thought, oh, okay, sure. Well, I'm just curious. And I had a flick through. And then I came across a number of folks who have doctorates in different areas in my space as well. So sociologists, anthropologists, a number of political scientists, folks who are professors at university in business departments, mixed with quite a few different lawyers, especially on the employment law side of things, mixed with psychologists, psychiatrists, doctors, you name it. In essence, I was really surprised to find that it wasn't just a bunch of 12 to 18-year-olds doing cool little tricks or snazzy new dances. For sure, there's still a number of those that make up a huge part of the platform. I'm not even sure how many, because I don't see many of them now that I've been on the platform for some time. The algorithm obviously bases its assumptions around what I would want to see off the back of things that I comment on, look at, or watch for a while. And so I don't tend to watch those things for a long time. So not surprisingly, when I go onto TikTok and I flick through, I've got a bunch of different professionals from, all walks of lives, and even folks that, I say professionals, it can be anything. I've got folks who are, avid hikers or campers or nature lovers talking about plants or propagation and all kinds of things. So I realized then and there that this was a platform with a lot of flexibility. And it seemed, on the basis of the fact that irrespective of where these people were, they had a number of different followers, there might be a space for someone in HR. And I should have, and I own up to not doing it. I didn't do my research. So I didn't kind of go, let me have a look, what comes up when I do human resources, or what comes up when I put in jobs or career. I just thought, I don't even know exactly what I want my channel to look like. I'm just going to have a go. And I had no idea what I was doing. I was surprised. I feel like my ego took a hit. It was a really, really interesting journey. So I've been a spokesperson for at least a decade now. Put me in front of 5,000, 10,000 people. I do not have an issue with it. I have probably been a bit of a speaker from a young age. I'd love to say I was really shy and I overcame it, and it's commitment and practice and resilience, but I would be lying. It's not. I've always been a little bit of a spokesperson. If someone's wedding comes up, I'm the MC. It's historically followed me. So what surprised me is to find that for the first time ever, so I don't have like a YouTube channel per se, or, now Instagram have Reels and Facebook. I had never done anything like that. When I'm recorded, it's usually by a bunch of professionals who sit in a far room, hundreds of people across. I can't even see them, with all of their fancy equipment, and it kind of gets televised either live or gets recorded and forms part of like leadership development program pieces or pieces around learning and development and the likes. So I was rather surprised to find that I got my phone, I turned it on, I kind of held it up, and I was nervous as all hell. Like, I was so nervous. I have clients that I work through speaking engagements. So public speaking, manner, approach, style, considerations, audience, what to expect, the overall feel. And here I was kind of phone in hand going, and I didn't even know what to say. I didn't know where to start. I had never thought of a script because traditionally I'm not a script reader or a person who has scripts. And so I didn't know. And I kind of had to check myself and think, who cares? Like, I coach on detachment. I think we spoke about previously, this idea that there's a lot of sanity to be gained in detaching from a set outcome, because you can enjoy the doing, the journey, versus this idea that it might result in money or followers or likes. So I kind of thought, I don't know anyone on this platform. I don't have any friends. I don't even know who to follow. I don't even know these people. I'm just going to do it. I'm just going to record. And so, not knowing anything, I literally just hit record and put my first video up. And it was shocking. And I had no idea what I was doing. And I created another one with my other half because I just said to him, it's so frivolous. Check out this dance. And it was a dance that at that point was all across TikTok. I can't even remember the name of it. It was one of those patchy, and everyone was doing it with these hands. And I just thought, let's just do it. And my partner, John, was like, I'm not doing that. And I was like, come on, you're the one who said to me, just go for it. Just start recording. So do it with me. So there we were. We had it. I think we had it. The camera, it was just my phone, still is today, by the way. We just had it like perched on a fruit bowl on top of a piece of fruit, very vicarious, like about to fall over. Hit record. Didn't know what we were doing. It's still up there, so it still is horrific and sits there in all its horrible glory, and kind of had some fun with it. And there off I went. I had a good laugh. I thought, maybe no one will see it. Maybe lots of people will see it. And I really don't mind. And I realized, you know, you mentioned this before, like a sense of liberty, that there was a freedom to it, that I didn't have anything to prove on this platform. You know, my business was underway irrespective. I was considering going into the social media space, but hadn't. I realized there and then, one, that as a person who's spoken professionally for years, my gosh, I do not have camera skills. And I've realized that is a thing. Camera skills. Video skills is a thing, not even, you know, on the back end with regards to software and updates and whatnot to make and beautify your videos so it looks a little bit more aesthetic, but rather more so a skill to actually talk to a camera. I just didn't have it. I'm like, I don't even know where to look. I didn't even know where I was looking on my first half dozen. You know, I was kind of vaguely looking. I'm sure my friends say sometimes when they take photos of me, it's like deer in the lights, the headlights, like I'm like this. And I think my videos were the same. I was like this, like trying to just stare, but I wasn't really sure where to stare. So I thought TikTok is the platform for me that I'm going to experiment. I have nothing to gain that I know of. I have nothing to lose. Maybe something will come of it. Maybe something won't. And this is going to help me understand whether or not this platform will serve me and my business interests, what I want to specifically niche down in addition to considering, you know, if I get skilled in this area, then I might want to transition to creating a YouTube channel. For years, friends have asked me to do podcasts and a few other pieces, and I hadn't, more as a result of prioritizing some other business-related pieces. But I just thought TikTok's a great way to just go on, record myself, go live, and see how it goes and where it takes me. And so I almost feel like TikTok has gifted me, you know, and your word was brilliant to describe this, liberty, to experiment and have spelling errors and have poor lighting and have, even what I have right now, I can see it's horrific, reflection on my glasses and be like, wait, how do I, and then I'm like, oh, I have to speak at a certain angle and it's really awkward. And then even getting past that, just going, who cares? Reflection, I'll worry about it later. I'm just going to record. I found myself deep diving into imperfect action, and TikTok as a platform allowed me to do that in spades.
It's true. And I have to say for our viewers that you are far too hard on yourself. I think that your content is great and you look great, and you have a real great way of making the most of these 60 seconds that we have on TikTok, where, you know, you really put your message across. It's super helpful, and which is, you know, what of course caught my eye, and I thought, oh, I'm going to follow her. So yeah, but we're always too hard on ourselves, aren't we? I mean, I'm the same.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's probably flowed on into other areas of my life. Like, I have found myself, I am just going to own it. I am a perfectionist through and through. I have a website that I'm not proud of that guaranteed would not have got off the ground if my other half hadn't said, I'm going to write something up here that's embarrassing, and I'm going to have the details, and it's going to stay there until you create a website. And I was mortified. It was really bad. It was a sentence, and it was just horrible. So I had to get the password and username, and I was like, he's like, no, you're not changing it until you've created it. So my website's created in 4 hours, in one evening, and it's the same website that stands today. The key here is that pre-TikTok, the perfectionist in me would have concerned myself far more with perfecting the hell out of that web development, and not with just bringing calls in, servicing my clients in the best way I could, and post kind of all through the TikTok journey of really deep diving into imperfect action, I found myself just going, nah, you know what? The website's not that important. I'll get to it. It'll happen.
Yeah.
So I don't know, like, have you felt, I'm keen to know with yourself, as a TikTok user and creator, have you felt that the liberty gained through TikTok has had a flow-on effect into other areas of your business working life?
Yeah, I mean, I had this moment that you're describing very much when I started going live on Facebook, because that's part of my story where in 2019 I committed to going live on Facebook every day for a year. And I ended up doing this for more than a year. But that cured me of this. I was that what you described resonates massively with me. I would, well, I just didn't take any action because I was such a perfectionist that I just so many things I just didn't do because I couldn't bear to do them imperfectly. And so when I committed to these lives, I just had to do them every day, and it was terribly imperfect. And that was a massive step for me. That was just, amazing, So in that sense, TikTok was less of it had less of this effect of with my perfectionism, because I feel, I'd already made quite a lot of progress with that. But as I was, when we were talking before the interview together, I definitely find it very liberating. And it's kind of helped me just go for it in a different way, I guess, than the Facebook Lives. Because the Facebook Lives are they're not very permanent. You know how it is on Facebook. You go live and everybody sees it for 24 hours, or not everybody, in fact. Then it sort of disappears. Whereas, TikTok is it's not like a mini YouTube, but it kind of is. It's like a little sister of YouTube. And so it is there, and you click on the account and you see all the videos. So it definitely helped me. Yes, it definitely helped me go further in this in this queue of perfectionism, definitely. And I found that, it's just, there's something about, let's just go for it with TikTok, which there isn't with other platforms, I think. I don't know exactly.
Yeah, I would agree. And I don't even know the extent that, when did it become the societal norm that Facebook Lives need to be more polished? I'm not sure. But I feel it. I feel like, no, it's not to say that they need to be professional or business-like, but I do have an inherent bias, and it could be well and truly incorrectly based, on this idea that if you're going to go in live on Facebook, you'd have a meaningful, purposeful message. Versus TikTok, I almost feel like, and this is off the back of, it's not even my own, it's off the back of scrolling through TikTok, folks just think, I'm having breakfast this morning and I made it and it's pretty healthy, and maybe I'm a personal fitness trainer, so I'm just going to eat food and go live and talk about my breakfast. And you get people, because I don't know about yourself, but sometimes I'll be on the app and it will instantly have a live that's up and not someone I'm following. And I've seen people who literally just sit there and they're talking and eating at the same time. Part of me, the really conservative, I was brought up with manners and whatnot, is going, oh my gosh, I can't believe they're doing that. But then part of me just thinks it is so liberating, and it forces that judgmental side of me to not only accept, but rather embrace the whole culture of the manic state of TikTok and the variation of content from people who go on there and they're live gamers on YouTube and they just film themselves gaming and they don't even talk much, through to folks who go live and they have set content. They'll have whiteboards behind them with a whole bunch of structure, a content list, a Q&A, follow-up, a lot of resource materials on their, link tree or whatever they choose to use. It's fascinating. And I should say, as a little side note, that I did have a little bit of a squeeze look at your Facebook videos, and I want to say congrats. You did such an amazing job. I saw a little bit of your journey from the, you took up a challenge initially and then you kind of extended that challenge and went, I'm going to stick this out for 365 days. And I've met a couple of people who said they would, and they wholeheartedly believed they would. You are today the only person I have ever met or known that has truly stuck to 365-day plus going live. And I just, honestly, I feel like I bow to you because I know that there have been moments on TikTok where I'm like, you know what, it's all about consistency. It's not about focusing on the quality. That's a great thing, but it is about consistency. So I'm going to show up every day. And then that became every second day. And I'm like, well, I'm on holidays, maybe when I get back. And I think that's me. And I was pretty determined at the start. I look at you and the fact that you did what you've done with Facebook Live, and I just, honestly, my hat goes off to you. I am so impressed. So congrats, a little side note of big congratulations for what you managed to achieve. You set out and you achieved it. You beyond achieved it.
It certainly, taught me and got me into the habit of showing up every day. So even though now I decided to stop going live every day because I felt strategically it wasn't the way I could best serve my audience really anymore, I certainly show up in one way or another every day on one platform. Either it's because I'm publishing a video or because I've written content or because I've done a TikTok video or because I go live in my group or I have all these little things, and it was a valuable lesson, I must say. But thank you. Yeah. But
That's incredible.
It's true that I know exactly what you mean about TikTok, and maybe listening to you, I was thinking maybe all this was amplified with the pandemic, with all these people finding themselves stuck at home. And for many people, in some countries, they were not even allowed to go out apart from an hour a day to walk or something. And I think for many people, this became their, as you say, they're sitting down eating breakfast. It might, their TikTok audience might be their only, I don't know, their social life, which, and I think, well, it's sad on the one hand, of course, that we're having to go through that, but fortunately, people are resourceful and find ways. I mean, maybe this is me extrapolating. I don't know if that's true, but I have seen a few lives where, some people living alone were just showing their daily exercise routine or showing what they're watching on TV or something. And I caught myself thinking, maybe this is just because they are lonely and we need interaction, don't we? We just need to be, we need to be social. We need contact.
No, definitely. I'm seeing the same as well. And I'm certainly seeing that reflected in the private messages. I think given the basis of what I specialize in, which is a really sensitive topic and certainly something that a lot of people don't feel comfortable asking me, whether it be on lives or on my own video content questions about, I get a number of private messages. And I remember when I first started, I think I'd only done three or four videos, which kind of amazes me now because I'm like, one of those was that dancing one. And I think the next one I spoke 1,000,000 miles an hour. It was pretty terrible. In essence, I think I had 5 minutes worth of material that I attempted to fit into 60 seconds. And it was stubborn about it. Like, rather than just take out a fair bit of the bulk, which is unnecessary, and I could have, used elsewhere and just pointed people to via a resource or a blog post, I just went, no, I'm going to squeeze it in there. I was almost like setting myself a goal. I can do this. Needless to say, even off the back of having only 3 or 4 videos at that time, I had a couple of women who reached out to me, one in North America and one in Australia, who were on maternity leave. And to your point, they mentioned that usually in that position, with a newborn, they would have the opportunity to socialize. Folks would be coming and visiting, family and friends would be taking on like a auntie, uncle, carer role of coming in and caring or having chats. And they weren't really getting that in their home environment. And at the same time, they were given the opportunity off the back of being on leave to kind of take a step back and consider what's working for them and what's not, and realizing that their work environment is significantly toxic and has actually got to them for some time. And it might have been their first break in several years from said position that allowed them to realize how toxic that environment was. And, you know, like you said, you know, they're not getting visitors. They're not as social. We are social animals. Flicking through and seeing a couple of my videos and being like, you know, maybe I should talk to her. And so my first couple of clients off TikTok were two women on maternity leave who felt really stuck, found themselves deciding, I don't want to go back to my job. I categorically do not want to go back to work when I come off maternity leave, and I need to for financial reasons. So where does that leave me? Maybe I need to equip myself with tools, approaches or methodologies to better deal with said toxic environment. And so I've still got both of them as clients today. And I just think how random, especially the person in Australia is several hours, like even by flight, like they're in Western Australia, and the person in North America, well, it's all across the ocean, right? And they both contacted me off the back of what were a few really average, lower than average TikTok videos. So I realized then and there's something in this, you know, and maybe it'll amount to more clients, maybe it won't, but it's serving someone. So it's been an incredible journey.
It's incredible. I mean, that is such it's the power of producing content online, and this is really my passion, and where, you know, you can literally change so many people's lives. And as this story that you've just told is a perfect illustration of that. You know, people across the world, and they see 2-3 of your little 60 seconds videos, which you think are not perfect at all, and yet you know, I'm sure you changed their lives, and that's just fantastic. Wow, oh, amazing. You see, it's just amazing.
It is. And I think it's like a give and take relationship. I don't give any more than I take. I would love to say, I just sit on TikTok and I'm a provider of great content, and I just give because, you know, that's the way of good working well. But I'm like, no, that's not actually true. I give content every so often because I feel like it. But I'm like, you know, I might hear something, or I might get off a particularly intensive session with a client that day, and I think, you know what, there's been a pattern of behaviors across a number of my clients. I'm going to address it in my next live or the next video. But I actually find myself getting on TikTok, and I'm not on there a lot, admittedly. I was initially, but scrolling through, you know, yourself is a really good example. I'd heard about affiliates. I even thought about it when I created a couple of kind of online funnels of sorts for some specialist programs I offer. You know, they have kind of a tick box. And even though as part of my, you know, my MBA, I did marketing, and I understand the loose nature and incentive of doing affiliate marketing, it was a really foreign thing. So even coming across your material, I was like, oh, wow, I should look into that. That's really interesting. You know, and even it was funny, some of the comments that came over onto your channel, I look at them and I go, oh, that's so true. Or what is that? I had the same question. And so I find myself also learning on the platform. I've learned from you, and I kind of think as far as our domains go, outside of the business world, I don't really have a lot in common. Like, we don't cross over, we don't do the same material. And yet I found myself time and time again looking at some of the videos you've done and going, oh, that is interesting. I should look at that. You know, I've even looked at I use Kartra as one of my software packages that puts together my funnels. And I have, off the back of you, so you wouldn't know this, off the back of seeing a video you did on affiliate marketing and networking, I've actually gone back into the back end, ticked the little affiliate box and thought, you know, maybe this would lead somewhere. And it has. And it's not something I would have done otherwise. So thank you for that. So it's such an interesting little world.
It is, isn't it? It really is. Well, that does make me happy to think, you know, it's not, I don't always know what effect I have. So it's really nice. Yeah. So, and it's fascinating. And of course, I mean, I think we all, we give and take, and we feed each other, don't we? I mean, you know, all of us kind of thing. Yeah. So it's wonderful. Louise, thank you so much. I mean, I'm going to have to come to the end of this interview, unfortunately, because I have the family to feed. But listen, I am absolutely fascinated by what you do. I think it's brilliant. It's amazing. Thank you so much for, taking time to come and speak to me like that. And I'm sure it's going to interest my audience. And I'm wondering if people want to find you. I mean, I know you're not looking for work, but I'm sure that after listening to you, people are going to say, where do I find her? So, I mean, I'll put a link below the video. Where's the best place? Is it your TikTok account? Is it your blog?
Yeah. Okay. So at the moment, probably the best two ways to reach out to me. The first one I would preface, it's just the one that gets checked the most often. Certainly the one I have a couple of folks that always ensure that it's getting checked on a continuum really basis is my website. So that's ybycoaching.com, which stands for Your Best You Coaching, which is the name of the business.
Brilliant. I'll write that down in the description. Yeah.
Yeah, and to send those details through. And I've got a contact form. So I have a couple of pieces in there, but folks can reach out via the contact form. Sometimes people aren't sure. So I do offer, what are typically called kind of discovery calls to understand whether or not I would be a good fit and they would be a good fit for me. So there's also the avenue of folks having a look on the contact form and just saying, hey, this is my scenario. Is it something that you feel comfortable with or you might be able to help me with? The other one is my TikTok channel. So Louise with employees, and I can also write that down because I appreciate it's long and wordy. But I also, I'm happy to receive messages. Sometimes, folks have something really short and small they want to ask. And while I can, and if I can, I'm open to answering them. So if someone has a quick question and they just think, oh, I'd just like to know this, folks are welcome to reach out with a private message and just ask me. Someone asked me about a legislative change. It doesn't warrant a long conversation. They were just feeling really stuck. And I was able to provide that in a couple of sentences. So I'm happy to do that. And you can also, I've got a link tree, which in essence is just like a little link that's in my bio on TikTok that goes to my website, my latest blog, in addition to that contact page. And also a calendar where people can book now and actually see in real time my calendar availabilities. So
brilliant.
They're probably
so that's absolutely brilliant. So no, absolutely, I'll put both links in the description, and that way people can find you. And really, Louise, thank you so much.
Thank you so much. I was so touched when you reached out because I just thought, oh my gosh, yes. Beyond even being interviewed, a huge part of me was like, oh my gosh, I get to meet you in person. I think, as in person as it gets these days. So thank you for providing me with the opportunity to actually meet you in person and have this chat. It's been fantastic. And I'm always learning more from you. Oh. And the other is thank you for creating the content you do, because I genuinely, from someone who doesn't have a marketing background, bar the bare minimum, I'm constantly learning and I will continue to. So I love watching your content. So thank you on that side as well.
Oh, thank you so much.
Louise is an amazing woman, isn't she? I hope you enjoyed her story as much as I did. If you did, please give the video a like and subscribe to my channel. Don't forget that you will find all the details on where to find Louise and how to contact her if you want to in the description of this video. Louise is not the only entrepreneur I've had the pleasure and honor to interview. If you're interested in people's stories, in people's journey, please make sure you check my interviews playlist. And if you have an interesting story to share, then leave a comment below, let me know in a comment below and I'll get in touch with you. We'll chat, and if I feel that we're a good fit, then I will interview you. We'll meet on Zoom, I'll interview you and I'll publish it on my channel. In the meantime, thank you so much for watching. I will see you in another video. Bye for now.